Hello everybody, it is Nicole from iiKiui, and today we are reviewing the Emooqi Watercolor brush pen set that was kindly gifted to me. So let's not waste any time and hop right into the video. The price for this set is $16.99 on Amazon, and I believe this is the only place where you can purchase them. The product comes in a teal box with the brand name and set number on the front. The front has the number 46 on it, which at first I found kind of confusing because the set was supposed to be 36, so I thought it was a typo at first, but it has a +2 for the included water brush pens, as well as the +8 for the included watercolor paper. As I mentioned earlier, the set comes with 36 watercolor brush pens, 2 refillable brush pens, as well as the 8 watercolor paper pieces. Inside, the pens are in a clear plastic case with snap closures, and the watercolor paper comes in a little cardboard envelope. The watercolor paper is kind of thin and it's textured, but I did use this paper for swatching. The pen has a black barrel, clear cap, and the color at the end as well as in the brush. The nylon tip is really good for making fine lines as well as thicker lines. There's a good variety in color, which also includes about 3 neon colors from what I can see. No 2 colors in this set are the same. Sometimes sets will include too many of one color in my opinion, like too many yellows and not enough purples, so I like that there is a good balance of different colors in this set. The colors are pretty vibrant and bold, but can be diluted with water. Moving on to the pros, on the right paper, the watercolor pens blend well, and I'll explain a little bit more about this in the cons, so just wait for that. I think these pens would be good for more expressive and fluid art, which I'll also explain a little bit more in the cons. The flexible tip is good for small and larger areas, and as I mentioned earlier, there is a good range of color and no 2 colors look the same. As for the cons, like most watercolor brush pens, there is no labeling whatsoever, so you can't really identify each pen if it's not in order, and you will either have to swatch it every time or keep it in order to know which color you're using. I have found this pretty consistent across all watercolor brush pens that I've tried that look like this. The only exception is the Color It watercolor brush pens, but again, they don't look like this, so they are labeled, but the ones that are very similar with the black barrel and clear cap don't usually have labeling, and it makes it very difficult to figure out which color you're using if you're using a swatch card as a reference. The next con is that the neon colors don't blend very well. This is not just this brand, it seems to happen across all the other brands that I've tried as well. If you've seen any of my other reviews on watercolor brush pens that are similar to this, I believe I mentioned that the neons don't blend very well in pretty much each video. The next con is that the colors tend to bleed, so I find it very difficult to paint precisely, even when waiting for the previous layer to dry. So I'm not sure if I'm just not letting it dry long enough, but you'll see in the painting I'm doing that I let the hair dry and then I added the blue, and the blue kind of bled into the hair. And another area is when I was painting the skin, I made sure to keep it inside the lines as much as possible, but it kind of bled by itself, so I couldn't really do much about that. So when I added the blue later, it was very visible with the brown inside. Also, I apologize if you hear noise in the background. I have a very noisy rabbit and I'm looking at you, Peanut. As I mentioned earlier, the pens only seem to blend on certain watercolor paper, and I say this because after I swatched the colors on the included paper, and they seem to blend pretty well, I wanted to create another swatch card in my Arteza watercolor book because that's where I like to keep all my swatches together so I don't have to fumble around with a bunch of papers. I used the same method to swatch that I did on the included paper, so my process wasn't any different, but when trying to blend it in the Arteza watercolor book, it didn't really blend as well as on the other paper, and I'm not sure if it's because the paper in the book is more absorbent, because when trying to blend it, it created a very definitive line between the two, whereas on the other paper, it would at least blend it most of the way. Unfortunately, I can't really tell you which papers work and which ones don't, but from my experience, the ones included in the set, as well as the paper I'm using for this drawing, which is the Strathmore watercolor paper, those work well to blend the colors together. And as always, all the products that I'm using in this video will be listed in the description. Overall, in my opinion, I find it not very different from other watercolor brush pen sets. It is definitely one of the more affordable sets in terms of how many you get versus price. I found other sets that are similar in price but have less included in the set, or ones that have similar set size but are a little bit more expensive. As I mentioned earlier, I think that this set is better for more fluid and expressive art and not for more precise art. You probably could do more precise art, but I feel like in my experience, all of the watercolor paintings that I've made with watercolor brush pens always tend to bleed somewhere that I don't want it to. Of course, I'm not saying that you can't do precise art with these, I just think that they are better for fluid and expressive art. As with most other watercolor brush pens, these are also great for traveling if you can't bring a watercolor set, or if you just want to paint on the go. I think these are great to use. Ultimately, it is your choice if you want to purchase this set or another, depending on the colors that you see or the set size. I have other review videos on my channel on other watercolor brush pens if you want to check it out. I'll leave links in the description as well. I hope you found this review useful or helpful in any way. If you did and want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you're notified of when I post a new video. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments. I try to respond to everybody, so if I haven't responded to you yet, I probably haven't seen it, but most likely I will respond. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Keep drawing, keep creating, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!